I'm Megan and this is Kaylee, and we're students in the Honors College at Ball State University. As part of the curriculum, we take something called a humanities sequence, and right now, we're studying the Middle Ages.
That's right, and more specifically, art in the Middle Ages. That's where you come in. What better way to make sure that you understand something than teaching it to someone else? So that's exactly what we're doing. So sit back, relax, and enjoy your journey through medieval art.
You can't talk about art in the Middle Ages without first understanding the daily life of someone living during that time period, so that's where we'll begin. Society was structured into three main divisions, what we would consider social classes: the clergy, the nobility, and the peasants. Peasants are what most of us would be had we lived during that time period.
But you should be glad that you didn't live then. Life as a peasant was terribly unrewarding. There was virtually no social mobility, which meant if you were born a peasant, you would probably always be a peasant. The only exception was if you were a member of the clergy. Bishops, cardinals, and even the Pope would buy their way into the papacy. How's that for corruption?
But back to peasants. Life as a peasant was hard. You were always hungry, dirty, and smelly. If you got sick, that would be the end of you. Not only did peasants have poor hygiene, but there weren't any antibiotics either. Diseases that can be cured with a simple prescription now were fatal then. Peasants had virtually nothing to live for, except one thing.
The church. The church was the only thing to give them hope. Catholicism was a big shift from ancient Greek and Roman schools of thought. No longer was religion materialistic, or shown through sacrifices and tangible items. Now, religion has become faith-based, or based in the belief that there is a God who cares about you. Why are you hungry? Why are you suffering? Lots of people throughout the Bible endured great trials and tribulations too. God doesn't promise that you won't be hungry, but He does promise that there's a better place, and that better place is what gave peasants hope.
Another thing religion brought to peasants was comfort. When these peasants went to Mass, it was the one time they could just relax and enjoy life. Clergy made beautiful ornamented cathedrals to draw peasants in. They would listen to otherworldly monophonic a cappella Gregorian chants during the Mass that would let them be at rest for once.
The Gregorian chants and the Mass were written in Latin, a language that the peasants didn't understand. That's where the art comes in. The church would use art to tell a story. What would the peasants do while sitting in a Mass, unable to understand a word of what is going on or being sung? They could look at the art and the pictures all around them to tell them what was happening.
These pictures had Bible stories and scenes with the disciples. Many were centered around Jesus himself. Art became a way for peasants to claim their faith. It made them feel like it was really theirs. It was in terms that even they could understand.
There were so many different kinds of art during the Middle Ages. There were mosaics, a sort of primitive form of painting and tiling. These consisted of flat figures that almost looked like they were hung from pegs. Their faces were stoic and emotional, very different from the humanistic art that we would see soon.
The Middle Ages also brought about frescoes, which were really popular in Italy. Frescoes are murals that are painted on plaster. This means that the murals are actually part of the wall. However, because they were done on plaster, these pieces would peel and eventually fade away. Along with
Along with innovations in paintings came architecture. Beautiful, majestic castles and cathedrals were built during the Middle Ages. Cathedrals were ornamented and decorated on the inside in order to entice peasants to come to Mass. These, this time period also brought about the use of arches. Innovations like the dome in Hagia Sophia were unreal, absolutely breathtaking to the peasants.
But that's enough of a historical context. Let's talk people so we can get to art. We're going to talk about a very important artist towards the end of the Middle Ages, Cimabue. Cimabue was a Florentine painter from Italy. He also delved in mosaics. He's considered a pioneer in the movement of naturalism. While everyone else was still painting emotionless stick figures, Cimabue had begun adding lifelike qualities to his work, like emotion and facial expression. So consider this change like switching from Kristen Stewart's range of expressions to those of Jim Carrey. Big difference, right?
Huge difference. Cimabue also is attributed to the portrait of St. John, frescoes of the New Testament, and many other notable pieces that can be found in the Italian churches. Cimabue is all the more important because of the students that he shared his talent with. One student, named Giotto, was one of the starters of the artistic renaissance in Italy. We can tell from this that Cimabuy's influence spanned many ages of art.
Let's explore some of the pieces of art of this time. We will begin with Cimabuy's crucifix from 1268 CE. Try to keep in mind the context that we talked about earlier when you look at this painting.
When we look at the description of Jesus on the cross, there is a definite contrast between the inorganic and geometric looking lines of the cross that surround the organic lines of Christ's figure. In the shading of Christ's features and in the lines of the cross, chiaroscuro is used to create a strong sense of depth in the painting. The piece also shows the shift in thinking towards humanism, the idea that humans are inherently good and have emotions. This is evident in the defeated expression on Christ's face. This is a good example of the Jim Carrey reference that we talked about earlier, how he's full of emotion and life. Although it's not as evolved as our art today, it was definitely a step in the naturalistic direction. To our left of Jesus is John the Evangelist, and to our right is the Virgin Mary, his mother. These two people represent unity in the religion. Even if, in the flesh, Christ was alone, in spirit he was supported by his followers.
Next, let's talk about Cimabuy's other work, which is a fresco. In around 1278 CE, Cimabue created a fresco depicting the Virgin Mary, also called the Madonna, holding the baby Jesus. She is surrounded by 4 angels in St. Francis. The 4 angels probably represent the 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
This fresco has monochromatic colors throughout. The clothes and the border are very detailed and complex, but when you look at people's faces, they are almost emotionless. This would be considered a good crossover piece because of the naturalistic features in the clothing, but lack thereof in the facial expression. The symmetry is broken by an angel's halo, as evident in the break of the border and the imbalance of the characters, as almost all of the angels and the Madonna are on our left. The major issues of this fresco is the symbolism of Mary and Jesus on the throne. During this time period, it was important for the papacy to maintain power over nobility.
What similarities do you see between Cimabuy's 2 pieces we just discussed? What do you like or dislike? Is the role of the church in art becoming clearer to you? Keep these questions in mind as we move to our last piece.
Our last piece is entitled the Karlsruhe. It is the shrine of Charlemagne and was forged in 1215 CE as ordered by Frederick II.
You can assume that there are political implications being made here, with Charlemagne being placed in the front of the shrine with scenes from his life throughout. It's made of precious metals, which make it a very valuable piece. To the right of Charlemagne is Pope Leo III, and to his left, Archbishop Turpin of Reims. Jesus is above Charlemagne inside of a medallion. Jesus and Madonna, who we discussed earlier, are enthroned between archangels Michael and Gabriel, representing faith, hope, and love. There are also 8 emperors enthroned on each side of the piece. How's that for repetition of royalty? The ornate and intricate designs throughout Karlsruhe also play into how elaborate and ornamented these sacred pieces of art really were.
So, we've talked about a lot during our time together. Just to review, we've looked at the physical descriptions and forms of the crucifix, Madonna, enthroned with St. Francis and 4 angels, and Karlsruhe, and their implications for the transition of art into the Renaissance. We also looked into the daily lives of peasants. The central theme that we would like to convey among each of these 3 pieces is the importance of religion to the people of that time period, and the church's role in absolutely everyone's life, no matter which of the social divisions they may have fallen into. So, how do you feel about the Catholic Church using art as a way to sway public opinion? Do you think the religious control of art will continue into the Renaissance? Why don't you think art is used in this way today?
Thanks for watching, and we hope you've gained some useful insight into the art from the Middle Ages.